We all know Australians like to travel. Last year, Thailand was one of Australia's top 10 travel destinations, and it's common for people like Sophie Lyons, who recently travelled to Thailand, to be attracted to the idea of riding atop an elephant. Like many tourists, she didn't know a lot about elephant trekking before she went, but she was looking forward to spending her birthday getting in touch with them.
It's something that I've always really wanted to do. My friend went a few years ago, and I saw her photos and I thought it looked amazing because she was like going through waterfalls, and I was like, oh my god, I really want to do that. And I thought you'd just be sitting on an elephant, it'd be all kind of idyllic.
Tourism in Thailand injects the economy with $16 million per year, with about 14 million visitors from across the globe. Sophie booked her trip in Australia through a company called Gecko's Adventures. Gecko's website advertises them as a company with an interest in responsible travel. They try to minimise the negative impacts of travel by working with ethical service providers. But when Sophie arrived, contrary to what she was expecting, she found the elephants were being treated poorly. She says they were kept in chains and asked to perform for the visitors.
Well, when I got there, I kind of thought, oh my god, this is not very nice, because they were all contained in like really small areas. And then when we started walking around, he started like just smacking the elephant. And then when it stopped, it just stopped, it wouldn't move. And he smacked it in the ear with this metal stick. It must have gone right into the ear. And the elephant just started like screamed, and there was like his ear was bleeding.
Thais have a long cultural history of working with elephants. Elephants that used to work in the logging trade have now moved into the trekking business. Since the use of elephants in the logging industry was banned, Thai people have had to look for alternative sources of income.
Geckos use local guides to give an honest perspective of the culture. When I asked geckos about how the elephants were treated, they said that they hadn't received any complaints. They said they spoke to their ground operators in Thailand, and they said that they weren't aware of any such problems.
Several years ago, the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals released this footage of the cruelest method used to tame elephants, known as the Fajan process. The metal stick used by the Mohit is a typical process used to tame wild elephants held in captivity. Dr. Jan Schmidt-Burbach is a vet working for the World Society for the Protection of Animals. I spoke to him on Skype, and he said that while the taming processes vary, all elephants held in captivity must endure a similar process to break their spirits and make them submissive.
They all vary a little bit from each other, but they're all exceptionally cruel because the training has to be done right at the spot where the elephant is being captured before it's being transported.
Dr. Schmidt-Burbach says there is a misconception around the word domesticated, and that all elephants in captivity in Thailand are actually wild elephants that have been tamed.
The term domestication is a very specific term and requires that the animal has been selectively bred for at least 10 or dozens of generations. So in every generation you select an animal that is more likely to have less stress in human environments. With elephants, this has never been done, and almost all the elephants in captivity in Thailand and around the world are either first generation captured from the wild or maybe second generation, but none of them are domesticated.
But the taming process is not the only problem.
The initial training process is not the biggest concern, but also keeping elephants in captivity in general is very questionable, and it's just not possible in a good welfare situation, because elephants are just too big and too complicated to keep in captivity.
Jane Crouch is the responsible travel manager at Intrepid. They run various trips that include elephant treks.
We're endeavouring to find a balance between elephant welfare and client education and client demand. Lots of clients want to go to places like Thailand to ride elephants. That's they see that as one of the attractions of the country. The demand is there, and if we just say straight out, "Oh no, we're not going to do elephant riding," then some people will just say, "Oh, well, we'll go and travel with somebody else that does it."
Intrepid is helping to fund Whisper's research, where they are investigating the welfare conditions of captive elephants in Thailand. But Whisper maintains that elephant trekking should not be done.
I think two agencies have a bit of a responsibility to pre-select acceptable acceptable venues that are being presented to the tourists. Most tourists, I believe, will go on a holiday without spending too much thought on it. They have to work, they don't have much time to spend thinking of what they want to do in the holiday, and they rely on the tour agent.
It wasn't an enjoyable experience. Everyone just didn't want to be there. And I was a bit like, I can't believe I'm funding something like this.
Intrepid is hoping to use the research, which will be released in November, to better educate clientele and to put pressure on the Thai government to improve regulation. Hopefully this will help to change experiences of tourists like Sophie who learn too late. Whisper recommends that for tourists who want to have an elephant experience, to go to a sanctuary like Boonlot, where they have good welfare conditions and respect the animals.